G'day guys, Shane here. The very first video I ever did is probably my most successful video to date so far. At the time of recording this, I think there's about 12 or 13,000 views on that, and I've got to be honest, it's pretty humbling considering that my little channel here has been going for 3-4 months, I guess. But just a couple of days ago, I clicked over 500 subscribers, and that's kind of cool. Most of the people that are watching this channel are from the States. And here I am in little old Kahuna in north central Victoria in Australia. And the very first video that I did was all about astrophotography with your iPhone and how to basically take photos of the stars with your iPhone. That video's got a lot of reach. It's had a lot of comments and questions on it. So what I'm doing today to mark the 500 subs is redoing that a little bit and actually answering some of your questions in the video so that it's pretty clear. So this is the video you want to watch if you want to learn how to take photos of the Milky Way with your phone. Let's get into it. So if you're wondering, why should I subscribe to this bloke? I don't know him. Well, my name's Shane Mostyn. I live in north central Victoria here in Australia. Where I live, it is sensational for nighttime photography. We're pretty isolated here. Light pollution from surrounding towns is virtually non-existent.
Heading back to what used to be home, passing by those little towns I know so well, stopping for gas and then I'm behind the wheel again.
So I've been a professional photographer about 10 years. I do weddings, family photos, corporate photos, that sort of stuff. But what I'm really known for is the astrophotography, and I sell a lot of prints of the astro photos that I've taken, and at weddings and stuff I actually get sought out a fair bit for that, for my astro work. So I guess when it comes to teaching photography, a few years ago my wife said to me, why don't you teach people how to take photos on your phone? I thought, no one wants to do that, it's just a bloody phone. And she said, but everyone's got one. And I said, well, that's a bloody good idea. So we did. So when I started this channel, I'm kind of combining the two of them. I'm combining the photography instruction with the astrophotography with mobile phones. And when I first started, I thought, you can't do that. And I'll tell you what, you bloody well can. So if you're into astrophotography, or you're even just into mobile photography, this is probably a channel you want to subscribe to. Every week I do 2 videos, one on a Monday, one on a Friday, all about mobile photography and small lens photography. So mobile phones, tablets if you like, GoPros, things like that. And we do some pretty cool funky things with it. We do astrophotography, light painting, lots of editing, tips and tricks. So subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification, and you'll be the first one to see what I'm doing each and every week. So without any further ado, let's get into what we're doing tonight. So the first thing that you need to work out is the Milky Way season. Yeah, there's a season to it. For us here in the Southern Hemisphere, it starts around the end of March, early April, and it goes through, or in March, early April, it'll sit where I'm facing right now, it'll be out there, and it'll be almost vertical, and it'll go through to about the end of October. And say I got out here in the beginning of April, it's almost vertical at say 7 o'clock at night. Whereas come end of October, early November, same time of night, it'll be over this side of the horizon, and it'll be pretty well horizontal.
So I'm driving to get away, running through emotions high and low.
So it absolutely makes a difference where you're going to shoot and what time of year. What else are we going to need to be mindful of? Well, the weather for one. If you look out here behind me, it's cloudy as cloudy can be. Today is a crap day for astrophotography. The forecast says this is going to all go away. I'm a little bit skeptical. The beauty of that though is that I live about 10 minutes drive that way. So if it doesn't clear up tonight, I'll come back tomorrow night. So you need to be mindful of the weather. Look at the weather, look at the forecast apps. There's plenty of them around. I'm not going to tell you how to suck eggs. Make sure it's a nice clear night and you'll be right. The last thing you want to be mindful of is light pollution. Light pollution can come from towns. So the photos that I get out here with the wonderful open skies and the starry skies, you're just not going to get that in, say, Melbourne, because it's a capital city, there's lots of light, lots of people, and it's pretty hard to see the stars. Even with the naked eye, it's pretty hard to see the stars down there. So you're not going to get that without spending a fair bit of money on high-end gear and filters and stuff for your lenses. You're certainly not going to get it with the phone. When it comes to light pollution, you also need to be mindful of what phase the moon is at. A full moon will absolutely hinder your photos trying to capture the stars. So you want to come into the cycle of the moon. It can have a slither of moon, and I'll put a link up the top here as to what you can do with that and how to use it. But my best advice as far as the moon goes is just avoid it altogether if you can. When it comes to what you want to actually photograph with the stars, by all means you can just focus on the stars and just shoot stars and nothing on the ground at all. I find that quite boring, to be honest. I always like to have a subject in the foreground for all of my photos. So what we're going to do tonight is use this old dead tree here as the subject, and we're going to light paint this, and I'll explain that in a minute, with some torches and with some other lights, so we can really put some detail of the tree in the photo, and the stars, when I've just used that photo pills, will be up there behind it. It'll be a pretty cool photo.
Eyes on the road, don't lose control. I'm speeding fast to chase my soul. I'm driving to get away, running through emotions high and low, holding on or letting go. I'm fighting another day.
Does it have to be an old dead tree? No, you can do it with pretty much anything. Something old, something new, something natural, something man-made. Doesn't really matter what it is. If it's a cool subject, it'll make a cool photo. What really makes all these photos really interesting is that, well, let's go back to this tree. It's just an old dead tree. There's nothing really impressive about it. But I tell you what, at night time, everything pitch black, we put some lights under that, see some stars up behind it, this really boring old tree will be quite cool. So the subject that you choose is quite important. The way you light the subject is also important. When it's dark, I'll explain how we're going to light that tree. But say, let's have a look at this excavator photo, and I've lit that with the speed light for my Canon camera. So I'll just walk around that and just strobe it from different angles to make sure the vehicle's all lit up. But you've got to use your imagination. Look at the cab of that excavator, and it's all lit up inside. How did I do that? Well, I didn't have access to it. Because it's got some lights, some clear glass underneath the cabin, I've actually just shone my iPhone torch up through it. It got the green glow from the glass on the bottom, and it's lit up the cabin really well. So use your imagination when it comes to lighting these things. Let's have a chat about gear really quickly. We're shooting with the iPhone 11 Pro. It has that night mode in it, and the night mode's going to shoot for a long time. So all photos that we take at night time go for a long time. Most of the time that I shoot with the big cameras, I shoot for 30 seconds, 35 seconds. It really depends on the focal length of the lens, and that comes a little bit tricky when you're shooting. There's some rules that you need to follow when you're shooting with proper cameras, but with the phones, it just doesn't matter. But it still shoots for a long time. The longer you shoot for, the more stars you'll get in these photos. So you can shoot the iPhone 11 Pro night mode handheld, and it'll give you 10 seconds. If you put it onto a tripod, it'll give you 30 seconds. That 20 seconds makes the world of difference. So what sort of tripod should you get? Well, right now, on the bottom of this camera here, I'm holding onto the tripod that I would use for most of the work that I do. But because, you know, I've got way too many tripods for the other work that I do, I generally just bring out one of those. But you can absolutely use a little Joby tripod. It's perfectly fine for holding your phone to take these photos. With all of these, you're also going to need the phone holder. Ulanzi makes some really good ones. Just hold the camera onto the tripod so you can sit there for the full 30 seconds. It's absolutely worth the investment. If you don't want to put your hand in your pocket and get yourself a tripod, rig it up some way, like sit it on the ground against a rock, things like that, so that it's not moving. As soon as the camera senses any movement, it drops back to 10 seconds. That 20 seconds, as I said, is really important, and you don't want to miss it. So other than that, there's really nothing else that you need. So right now we just wait until it gets dark and hopefully these clouds get going for the night. We'll come back and take some cool photos. Hang around.
I'm living fast, I've lost my soul, I'm driving to get away.
Alright guys, obviously it's dark now. What I'm going to tell you though is we're not on the same day. We're about a week and a half later. It's just nature of the beast when it comes to astrophotography. We're out here that day and I talked about how cloudy it was. Well, that cloud did not go away and it was just a terrible night for astrophotography. You couldn't see a single star. And I've been watching the sky every night since then and it's just been crap. There was 2 nights there that I could get out here and do it, but they were nights I was already committed elsewhere, so I couldn't get out here. What's happened in that time though is the moon has evolved a little bit and now we're looking at about 1/3 of a moon. So need to keep that in mind. We can use that. You can certainly use the moon to light some of the subject and we're going to do that tonight. Let me just explain now what we've actually got set up here. So the tree that we spoke about earlier in the video, that's up behind me there. I've got the camera on a tripod sitting just there. That is the phone on a tripod sitting just there. And the way I've got it set up is that the tripod is at this sort of height, the tree is at this sort of height, and then the stars up behind it. So what we're looking at here is shooting up past the subject into the stars. So what we're going to do is set up the exposure and the focus on the tree. And so we'll touch the screen with the torch held onto the tree, touch the screen to get focus and hold to lock the exposure and lock the focus. Turn the torch off. Well, because we're on a tripod, we'll go into night mode. 10 seconds, because we're on a tripod, will give us 30 seconds and we'll shoot. Let's get into it. All right. So first of all, what I'm going to do is adjust that so it's nice and bright. There we are. I'll lock that there. That's locked now. I'll bring that away. We'll set for night mode. Because we're on a tripod, 30 seconds. Off we go, and we'll let that photo get taken. I'll explain this torch here briefly. This torch, it's a adjustable brightness torch. So that's on a lower setting, and you can see there, I can cycle through those power settings. It's very, very helpful for this sort of photography. It's easier to adjust the torch brightness than it is to do anything else with the camera that's on the phone. Let's have a look at this and see how we're going. We're almost there. Let's have a look at that photo. That's actually pretty good. Let's have a look in the detail of that. There. Now, the light's coming through from the moon and it's lighting up the back of the tree. It's actually a bloody good photo. I'm really happy with that. What I'll add to this video is that a lot of people have asked me about different apps, and I certainly review a lot of apps on this channel. We've talked about Camera Plus 2, we've talked about Slow Shutter app, the Moment app, all sorts of apps to do astrophotography with your iPhone. So far on the iPhone 11 Pro, because it has that night mode, and I'm going to say that the iPhone 12 Pro will have it as well, what I'm going to say is that these other apps probably worked better on the iPhone X, and make sure you subscribe to the channel because I'm about to try some of these apps on older iPhones to show you what they can do, the phones that don't actually have an inbuilt night mode. I've got a feeling they'll do pretty well on that. With the iPhone 11 Pro though, and where I live and where I'm taking these photos and shooting these videos, it is dark, dark, dark. We've got no light pollution here at all besides the moon from time to time. So this is probably a really good testing ground, if you like, of the capabilities of these sensors on these small phones. That's not to say that it's going to be exactly the same for where you are. You might be in an area that is a bit more built up with light, and you might find you get different results. In fact, I'm going to say you will get different results. So it's absolutely worth trying the Nightcap app, Camera Plus 2 app, and the Slow Shutter app. These are all good apps, and they're all good in their own right. All of them are. What I'm finding out here though, with our very clear skies and the no light pollution, I'm finding that the native camera app It's the duck's nuts, and you really just can't beat it for this sort of photography. All right, so I'll see you on Friday.